All right. So it is Wednesday, October 7th, 2020. And we are still discussing linear functions and how to see them in tables, rules, graphs, and contexts. I know that some of you are really starting to understand this, but some of you are not, and you're still struggling with this. So I'm going to spend some more time on it. We don't need to rush through this. All right, so if you do already get this and you feel like, why are we doing this more? I apologize, but we need the practice. All right, so clicker, here we go. So there are two main parts of a linear function. And this is what we've been working with the last few weeks. All right, the first part is the rate of change. And Tasa de Cambio. Right? That's the first part. We also call that the slope sometimes. Okay, so we have the rate of change. Right? Otherwise known as, why is this being weird? Tasa de Cambio. Right? In a graph, this can be seen by dividing the change in y by the change in x between 2 points. In a rule, this can be seen as the number written next to the independent variable, usually x. In a table, the rate of change can be seen as the change in y for every 1 unit change in x. This is very important. For every 1 unit change in x. In a context, this can be seen as a value typically written with the word per next to it. For example, they charge 50 cents per throw. Okay. So we're looking for rate of change. We can see that in a graph, in a rule, a table, and in a context. Right? We have 4 different places to look. You guys have any questions on where to see the rate of change? We're going to see examples. We're going to have visual examples shortly.
Are we going to copy?
You can, yes. I recommend writing these things to help remember them. This will also be available in Canvas later.
Ana, el profesor te recomienda que sí, porque eso les puede ayudar. Bueno, esto les va a ayudar. También los apuntes están en Canvas, pero sí, les recomienda que tomen notas, apuntes.
So the other part is the Y-intercept. Yeah, 4. Write that in here too. So then we have the y-intercept, which we have also called the start value, right? I think it's the valor inicio. Hopefully I'm spelling this right. Okay.
Valor inicial. Oh, yeah, inicial.
Oh, it's not inicio, it's
Inicial.
I-A-L.
I-A-L. Yes.
All right, that's close. All right, so valor inicial, or the start value, all right, is the y-intercept. Then it's the intercepción de Y. Y. I don't know why I have such a hard time saying the letter Y.
It's easier to say Y, right?
Yeah. All right. And so, in a graph, this can be seen as the point where the line crosses the y-axis. Okay. Es el punto donde la línea cruce. I don't know how to say axis. Shoot.
El eje.
Eje. I've written that before. All right. So the y-intercept in the gráfica es el punto donde la línea cruce de eje de Y.
It was very good, Mr. Musa.
Thanks. All right. In a rule, this can be seen as the value of the constant term or the start value. This constant term is the number without a variable. Okay. In a table, this can be seen as the y value where x equals 0. And in a context, this can be seen as a fixed value that gets added to over time. For example, the cost of renting the dunking booth or the base pay for a salesperson. The y-intercept or the start value is a fixed value that we are adding to over time. Do you have any questions on these two? If you are writing this down, can you raise your hand if you need more time to write this down? Okay. We'll wait. Thank you for the vocabulary, Mr. Morales.
De nada.
When you are done writing, please make sure you lower your hand or put your hand down. Looks like we're ready. Here we go. All right, to see the rate of change and y-intercept on a graph, we're going to look at these two examples. All right, the rate of change, right, again, we find the rate of change on a graph by picking 2 points and taking the change in y and the change in x, and we divide the change in y by the change in x. In this case, 2 divided by 1. To go from this point to this point, we have to go up 2 in y and over 1 in x. So we have 2 divided by 1. If we pick another 2 points, we get the same change. We add 2 to y, add 1 to x. So we have 2 divided by 1. Okay? So we need to find the rate of change on a graph. We need to pick 2 points. Okay? Then the change in y gets divided by the change in x. Okay. So we can use the graph to find our rate of change. Again, in our previous example, we do change in y divided by change in x. Hopefully that's written properly. Okay. So we have change in y divided by change in x, cambio de y, y dividir por cambio de x. Okay. And then to find the y-intercept, all right, intercepción de y, this is the point where our line crosses the y-axis. Right, so we have our line here, the y-axis. This is our point, so this is the y-intercept. And this says the coordinates of 0, 1. Right? De coordenadas es 0, 1. 0 es el valor de x aquí. X es 0 aquí. Y 1 es el valor de y aquí. De coordenadas 0, 0, 1. El valor de x por las coordenadas siempre primero. I think I have that.
Sí. El valor de las coordenadas para x siempre va primero. Entonces, cuando tenemos unas coordenadas que están entre paréntesis, el valor de x va a ir primero, que en este caso es 0, coma, el valor de y, que en este caso es 1. Así siempre van a ser en las coordenadas.
Yep. Okay. Does anyone need more time or any time to write stuff down from this slide? Please raise your hand. Okay. One hand, there you go.
And then, Mr. Mosley, this is all going to be in the notes. I mean, this will be posted so students can also refer to this later, correct?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, and as I said, I'm recording the lesson as well so that they can actually watch it again if they need to. So they'll have like Mr. Morales's comments in Spanish if needed, and like kind of what's happening live so they can watch it again.
That sounds great. And I think we have a question from Chandani.
Yeah. Shannon, ¿tienes pregunta o tienes más tiempo para escribir? Cool. Looks like good. No. All right. To see the rate of change in y-intercept on a table, we have these two examples. So the rate of change on this table, we have for every 1 unit change in x, we have 2 added to y. 1 more in x, 2 more in y. Based on that, we have a rate of change okay. For every 1 added to x, 2 are added to y. Okay, so por cada uno más en x, 2 más en y. 1 más por x, 2 más y. Okay. La tasa de cambio es más 2. Okay. ¿Por qué 1 más y x? 2 más y. Okay. All right. And for the y-intercept, the y-intercept is where x equals 0. It's the value of y, where x equals 0. So here, we have the y-intercept is at 0, 3. Okay, ese coordenadas 0, 3. Donde x igual 0. Sí, Leon, por favor. Okay. So the y-intercept is coordinates. The start value is the value of y at the y-intercept. Okay. La intercepción de y es siempre coordenadas. Pero el valor inicial es el valor de y a la intercepción de y. Entonces, valor inicial 3. Un número. Pero el y-intercept es las coordenadas 0, 3. ¿Entiendes? Sí, ¿no? I'm pretty happy with that.
X, Y. Entonces, para el y-intercept, la Y va a estar en el segundo, va a reemplazar el segundo lugar, 0,3. Entonces el valor inicial es el número 13. El valor inicial siempre es de Y.
That probably made more sense to them than me trying to stumble through the Spanish.
I understand everything.
Okay.
I think everyone understood everything.
Okay. All right. And can you please raise your hand if you need time to write stuff from this screen down? And if you have any questions, please type them in the chat. Okay. Okay, looks like we're ready. All right. So now, where do we see the rate of change in y-intercept in a symbolic rule? So we were given a rule, y equals mx plus b. The slope, or the value next to the x, is the rate of change. Okay. Right, well, wait. Let me go back one. Sorry. I want to look at this screen again one more time. So the rule, the symbolic rule for this table, right, y equals 2x plus 3. We have the rate of change is 2. Start value is 3. Okay. La tasa de cambio aquí con el x y las the y-intercept, el valor inicial, es aquí solo, it's by itself. Okay, no variable. So then when we see this slope is the same as the rate of change. They mean the same thing. Christian, see? And then the y-intercept in a rule is b. Okay. This is valor. Okay. And that would be the coordinate 0, comma, b. Okay. So, por ejemplo, y equals 4x minus 2. Okay. We have the rate of change, all right? Four. Okay. And the y-intercept 0, comma, -2. And our start value -2. Okay. Do you guys have any questions? Can you raise your hand if you need time to write this down? All right. Oh, Leon, ¿tienes más tiempo? No? Okay. All right. So again, we're going to look at the rate of change of y-intercept now in a context. So this is from a problem we did last week about the dunking booth. The dunking booth costs $150 to rent for the event. And the student council decided to charge students 50 cents per throw. We see the rate of change as this right here, the 50 cents per throw, right? 50 cents por throw. It's the word, la palabra por, all right? That goes with rate of change. Okay. The dunking booth costs $150 to rent for the event, and the student council decided to charge students 50 cents per throw. The y-intercept, or the start value, is represented with the costs $150 to rent. Okay, so we have rate of change is a 0.5. And we have the start value minus 150 because it costs money. So menos. Right? The y-intercept cero, comma, negativo, 150. 150. I think that's 150 in Spanish. I'm not sure. All right. And so the rule All right, la regla. Y equals 0.5 x minus 150. So we have, this came from there. And this 50 cents is here. And this x represents the number of throws sold. And y will be the profit. So based on this context, this is our rule, and this is what it means. Okay. All right. So let's see. I have few people that didn't answer. All right. The correct answer is B, 2. La tasa de cambio es 2. Okay, porque 4 es Y dividir por 2, cambio de X es 2. Igual 2. 4 dividir 2 igual 2. Okay. All right, next. What is the coordinates of the y-intercept for this rule? ¿Cuáles son las coordenadas de Y? Muchachos, solamente una coordenada que la valor de X es correcto.
I'm kind of stumped on this one. Can you give us a hint?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the values must be 0. Uno valor, I don't know how to say that, must. I need help on that one. Uno valor por la coordenada es 0. El otro valor es la valor inicial. Yes, Eunice. And then the class code is up in the corner, the join code. Okay. All right. So guys, on this one, the correct answer is 0, 125. Okay. Las coordenadas es 0, 125. 125. Okay. 0, 125. So circle the pair of values that represent the y-intercept on the table. What did Damien say?
He understands, but
Okay.
he may forget sometimes, but he is
Okay.
single.
Estoy en círculo del par de valores que representan la intercepción Y en la tabla. For this one, you should have circled 0 and 1. 0 in X, 1 in Y. Okay, for this one, it should be 0, 1.
Christian says that he doesn't know how to do this exercise.
Oh, like how to do the circle? Or just how to find the value?
How to find a value.
Okay. So when you're using a table, okay. Here, let's do this on here. We have X and Y. On the top, we have the X values. On the bottom, we have our Y values. Okay. So if I want to find yo quiero la intercepción Y la intercepción Y es donde X igual a 0. Para este ejemplo, aquí. X igual a 0, 0, y Y igual a negativo 1. Las coordenadas es 0, negativo 1. Okay. So, siempre quieres la valor de Y cuando X igual 0 por la intercepción Y. Cuando no tenemos en la tabla X equals 0, we need to find it. Right? So if we don't have it, we have otro ejemplo here. Tabla más pequeño. Okay. Por ese ejemplo, no tenemos la valor. We don't have the y-intercept on the table yet. Okay. No tenemos intercepción Y porque no tenemos valor de X 0. Okay. So we have to go backwards. Y de tasa de cambio, para este ejemplo, más 1, 1, siento. Error, I made an error, sorry. Fix these values. Okay, so el tasa de cambio es más uno, más uno, más uno, más uno. So to go backwards, uno, uno. So if we go minus 1, 1, minus 1, 0, minus 1, negativo 2, negativo 3, and then that's the Y-intercept.
En pocas palabras, muchachos, si no hay un valor de X en 0, lo buscamos. ¿Okay? Para encontrar el valor del Y-intercept. Por ejemplo, si no en la tabla, en la segunda tabla que no tenemos un valor de X en 0, restamos menos 1, menos 1, menos 1, hasta llegar a 0 en X. Y el número de Y que corresponda a ese 0 es el número del Y-intercept.